بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My brothers and sisters in Islam, we hope that you all are doing well, inshallah ta'ala, during this blessed day of Friday. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He allows us to be among those who are forgiven their sins on this day, and that their dua is accepted in the hour of acceptance. And that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses us all with entry into Jannah, Ya Rabbil Alameen. To proceed, there is a a question that I have gotten from a few people in our community, and a lot of it's on a lot of people's mind, which is, when can we go back to normal? This question. So this is the question, inshallah ta'ala, that we will discuss today, because we have to define the terms that we're talking about. What is normal? It's interesting that recently there's a Muslim psychiatrist, not Sheikh Yasser. Sheikh Yasser is amazing, but I heard it from another brother, mashallah, may Allah preserve him and everything, where he was clarifying an idea, which is there is no such thing as normal. What do we mean by this? Meaning, what is normal for everyone is actually different. Meaning, what's normal for another person is not normal for another person. What's normal for a certain time is not normal for another time. If we have, for example, one of these beloved Sahaba that we love and we admire and we try to follow in their footsteps, if one of them were to come back alive now in 2020, he would look around at society and he'd be like, this is not normal. Because what was normal for him is not normal for us. And if we were transported back to his time, we would look around and be like, this is not normal. Because what's normal for us is not normal for him. So it's across time, it's across even geographical areas. What's normal here in the South is not normal somewhere else. What's normal in America is not normal somewhere else. What's normal in the winter is not normal in the summer. We all know this. What's the idea behind all of this? Is that when people say, I wish that things could go back to normal, this is a misconception. What we should try is to actually make every possibility, every upcoming day, inshallah ta'ala, better than the day before. There's no going back. So first off, going back is not necessarily a good thing, number one. Number two, this idea of normal in comparison to what? For example, we had Ramadan, what's normal end about 2 weeks ago, or more, a little over 2 weeks ago. Right? Ramadan, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from us Ramadan, became over time a normal for us, and then Ramadan ended. Many of the companions and many of the righteous predecessors that came before us would spend months after Ramadan making in their regular du'as another du'a, which is, Ya Allah, accept from me Ramadan. Why? Because Ramadan was so important to them. Ramadan obviously is an exception, it's not a normal. However, our normal after Ramadan should always be a different normal than the one that we were in before Ramadan. And I want my brothers and sisters, inshallah ta'ala, today, if this is the only thing that you get, inshallah ta'ala, from my talk, is that whatever normal happens after, the pandemic is over, after we can try to resume a little bit normalcy to our lives, comparatively speaking, it's not going to be normal like it was before. And in fact, we would be in loss if we just went back to normal. I believe, wallah, I believe this genuinely from the bottom of my heart, that whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends us a test, that wallahi, it's a blessing for us as Muslims. It is a blessing. And I can tell you right now that this pandemic has been a blessing. Now, if you watch the news, that's not what you would think. Okay? And this is why, and Islamically speaking, we shouldn't follow the news that much. Because there's a lot of misconceptions, there's a lot of agendas, etc. People want to sway you one way or another. As a country, I don't think we've been ever this polarized before. And the reality is both polar opposites are horrible. A Muslim should be balanced in his life. Unfortunately, we have Muslims who are singing the songs of one party, and we have Muslims that are singing the songs of another party, completely cheering them on like they're cheerleaders. And the reality is a Muslim is neither this or that. A Muslim is always balanced. A Muslim is for justice. A Muslim is for what's right. And so our normal, inshallah ta'ala, should always be, how can I improve? Let me look at my family, how can I protect them, etc., etc. Normal for us going forward, inshallah ta'ala, should be better. And this is why I believe that this past Ramadan, wallahi, across the board, I've talked to so many people, despite the fact that they were at loss that they could not come to the masjid. Because wallahi, this does hurt. Not being able to come to the house of Allah does hurt. However, people were able to experience and discover new parts of their spirituality that they would have not experienced before. Because they were able to worship one-on-one now. They were able to worship by themselves. They were able to experience the sweetness of calling out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at night without any social boundaries now. Because it's just them. And they realize that we have to be accountable for this. We're the ones who have to really experience the spirituality. And this is why I believe across the board, people actually had a very good Ramadan. And alhamdulillah, this is a blessing. This is why I'm saying, whenever Allah sends a test, there is a wisdom behind it, and if we know what it is and we can pass the test, Allah will be stronger and we'll be better afterwards. This is why whatever normal we want isn't actually going to be normal compared to what's before. And the whole khutbah today, inshallah ta'ala, is to try to get us to realize that we have to be better than we were yesterday. And that inshallah ta'ala in the next few months, we have to be better than we were before. Better in terms of us taking care of ourselves, taking care of our health. For a lot of people, the pandemic was a wake-up call. What are your priorities in life? Are your priorities in materialism, consumerism, etc., etc., careerism, where people just focus, their whole religion revolves around focusing on their career and their career aspirations. People realize it's just a job. It's just a way to make a living. After the pandemic especially, people have had so many wake-up calls. People realize that my family is more important to me than anything else. Wallah, I've seen families come together and be stronger now because of the pandemic. That's the new normal. This is why I'm encouraging people to realize, okay, what can I do? What lessons can I take from the pandemic, from the lockdown, from my experience in Ramadan, that I can continue forward? What good habits did I actually build in my life, in Ramadan, that I need to continue now? If I was reading more Quran, let me continue that. Why not? If I was making more dua, I was making more tahajjud, I was waking up at night, I was doing this, I was doing that, I was reaching out to people, connecting with my family, realizing that maybe when I'm spending time with my family, I shouldn't be spending time on my phone with my family. Put your phone away. Focus on them. Talk to them. Wallahi, they'll appreciate it 100 times more. Take some time. Go out of your way. Reconnect with people. That should be the new normal. And it's not just in spirituality. I'm talking about everything. The new normal, inshallah ta'ala, should be that we should stand up for justice no matter who's afflicted. Right now, our black brothers and sisters, and really anybody of color, any minority, they've been going through so many difficulties that for a lot of people, for a vast majority of people, were completely oblivious. They didn't know. They didn't realize it was this bad. They had to be affected themselves sometimes to realize, okay, maybe there's something to this. Maybe police brutality is something that we need to address. I'm not saying that, drastic measures, of course, for some people is what they're asking for. As Muslims, we always have to look into the things, study them more, realize that there's nuance, inshallah ta'ala. But that black lives do matter. And when we say this word, black lives do matter, we're not dismissing other lives. We have to realize that as Muslims, we shouldn't be quick to follow trends just for the sake of being trendy, but that we should actually look into, okay, what's actually going on here? Because I realize that, for example, if I broke my arm is broken. And I start to mend my arm and fix it and make sure that it's okay. If the rest of the body says, why are we taking care of just the arm? Isn't the whole body important? Yes, all the body matters, yes. But right now, because my arm is wounded, it's still wounded, it's been wounded. In this case, our black brothers and sisters in this country have been suffering for 400 years. Yes, slavery has been done for 160 years. But guess what? The remnants of slavery, the remnants of Jim Crow, the remnants of even what was going on in civil rights is still there. Redlining was happening in this city up until the 1980s, which is where they would discriminate based upon where you lived, because obviously a lot of the neighborhoods were predominantly African American. So instead of saying black, they would say, oh, this zip code. But it was completely racist. There are racist policies that are still going on. Stop and frisk, for example, was clearly targeting black Americans in this country. And so many other things. The statistics speak for themselves. We don't have to go over them. If anybody actually studies them and sees, what's actually going on. To claim that racism is over is absurd. In fact, the Prophet ﷺ, he says, this will remain. He says, the Prophet himself ﷺ says, it will remain until the Day of Judgment. Which means that we have to try to remedy it. And that perhaps we might not be able to remedy it completely, but we have to at least try and do something about it. But for us to be silent and say, oh no, or to highlight the words of one person who's paid here or is, has an agenda behind what they're saying, I think this is foolishness. Listen to our brothers and sisters. We have many Muslims in the community that are African American. In fact, they might be the largest group in our community. Talk to them, listen to them, see what they're going through. Wallah, a lot of times we don't know what people experience until we walk, what does it say? You walk a mile in someone's shoes. Sometimes we have to talk to them. We won't be able to walk in their shoes. We can't change our color. But maybe if we sit down and talk to them, humble ourselves, be like, hey man, I can see that there's a lot of difficulties that a person like you would go through. Why is that? Let me ask some questions. Dig deeper. And realize that black lives do matter. And that all these, social justice is very important for us to stand behind. But like I said, there are some times when we get too quick to just following trends for the sake of being trendy. No, it has to be genuine. This is why a lot of these things of equality, racism, are things that we've been standing up for as long as we should have been. And alhamdulillah, as Muslims, we can say that Muslims have been at the forefront, and I think we should do even a better job. Because wallahi, Islam has the solution. You cannot eradicate racism unless you change what's in the heart. We can try to formulate new laws, we can try to get new changes, and we should. But those won't change people's hearts. The only thing that can change people's hearts is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through faith in Him. Azza wa Jal. This is why Malcolm X, he said it. He said the best thing, the only thing that can change racism is by changing what's in the heart, and the best thing that can change the heart is Islam itself. Wallahi, my brothers and sisters, we have the solution. It's sad when we follow solutions that don't necessarily, that are outside of our tradition. Wallah, our tradition solves it. And by embracing Islam even better, we can offer a really good solution to everybody involved. Of course, changing the laws is important, and we should. And we should try to, influence as much as we can and talk to people as much as we can. And sometimes it'll be one person at a time, and sometimes it'll be at a top policy level. This is great. Everybody works within the arena that they're able to work in. Alhamdulillah, I've spent the last 2 weeks talking a lot with the activists and the people that are on the ground and the broader community within, different faith groups and whatnot, even within our own community. And inshallah ta'ala, we'll do this together. But the normal going forward is not going to be the normal that we had before. And alhamdulillah, this is a good thing. We cannot go to how things were before, where a black man is, 10 times more likely to be shot. A black man is much more likely to be arrested, much more likely to be pulled over, etc., etc. We know these statistics. We can't go back to that. We have to stand up for justice. And we have to all realize that we are all brothers and sisters in this together, and that, as the Prophet ﷺ, he says, that the believers, all of them, kal jasad al-wahid, they're all like one unified body. That if one part has an ailment, obviously one part has an ailment, the rest of the body will complain in terms of having a fever and in terms of sleeplessness, insomnia. The rest of the body suffers as well. It feels its pain, doesn't ignore it, doesn't say, well, I didn't have anything to do with it. Fortunately, we have people in the community who say this. Well, I wasn't racist against black people, so why are you guys talking to me? Why are you guys blaming me? Nobody's blaming you. We're asking for your help. We're asking you to identify this, to help us eradicate it. Realize that we're all part of one body. Are we one body or not? This is what we have to ask as Muslims. If we are one body, then we should help each other out, inshallah ta'ala. And when one part of the community is suffering, then all of us need to stand at their aid, inshallah ta'ala, during this blessed time. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He helps us and shows us what a good normal that we can have, what a better future that we can have, that we shouldn't go back to being complacent about our health, that we need to be diligent, when we're asked to be social distancing and responsible citizens. Just because I don't care about my own health necessarily, or I'm not afraid of the coronavirus because I'm young, etc., that's fine. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and protect you, etc. But we have to realize that going forward in the future, we can't be just completely careless or choose, for example, not to wear a mask just because, I don't want to look like I'm this or that. Unfortunately, we've been extremely politicized to the point where carelessness is now a political statement, or carefulness is a political statement, and this is very sad. As Muslims, we have to be responsible to the people that we have rights upon. We have rights upon ourselves, rights upon the people around us, rights upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Here in the society, they teach you nothing about rights. They only tell you what you are owed. Individualism is the name of the religion, unfortunately. I'm free, this is a free country, I can do whatever I want. Mesh. But as Muslims, we realize that it's a comprehensive view. Yes, you have rights as an individual, but you also have responsibilities towards those around you. And we have to realize that we live in a society that helps everyone, inshallah ta'ala. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He forgives us for our shortcomings and our sins. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He forgives us for any shortcomings that we had in Ramadan, and that He accepts Ramadan from us, that He allows us to continue a lot of the good habits that we had in Ramadan after Ramadan. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He allows us to reach many more Ramadans, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He makes us better today and tomorrow than we were yesterday and the day before. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He accepts all of our dua, especially on this day, on the day of Friday. There is an hour in which the dua is accepted. Some scholars have said it's the hour of Jum'ah time, which typically would be this hour right now, and a majority say that it was the hour after Asr and right before Maghrib. So if you can make dua during that time, please do so. Make dua for our community, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows us and facilitates us to open as safely as possible, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows us to worship in His house another time, inshaAllah, and that He allows us to be better every day going forward, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Barakallahu feekum, jazakumullah khairan, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.